Greetings, dear precious spirit soul that you are. Take a nice deep breath into your heart and out of the mind. Bliss is that state of you being beyond thinking, analyzing, figuring out. It's your, you might call it 0 point. It's your starting point. Because 0 is also a number, you know, in the Hebrew way, or that Eastern way, where in the Western it's 1, but they're actually in the same. It's just, it's set there to create the opposites and the conflict that goes between plus and minus, like and dislike. It generates, that's the fuel, or that runs the motor of the virtual reality. My topic, you'll wind up where you're headed. And this is what people don't notice oftentimes, is that they don't notice where they are and what they're doing and the ramifications, what's going to happen from that. And one of the books that I've written, I only published 100 copies, and it needs some editing and that sort of thing. And I worked on it for about 5 or 6 years, really, really good. And it was called The Number One Mistake Everybody Makes. I started with that. And what the mistake is to make choices without knowing the ramification of your choice. And I wrote the book for kind-hearted people who always want to find the good in others, but lack discernment. Now, you might say certain so-called spiritual or philosophical groups out there say you can't have discernment or discrimination. And you have to look at how words tend to be changing their meanings by whomever wants to change those meanings to make those kind of words insignificant or meaningless, except to mean what is now meant for them, that you don't notice differences and that you don't make your choices based on your greatest, what would you say, on divine spiritual knowledge of your own inner knowing. But you make choices depending on what you've been taught in multiple choice or true and false tests. You've been through rules and regulations, all this kind of thing to believe history is true. But you weren't there, you don't know, and what only thing we do know in this moment is right where we are, right where you are. And that's how your life has turned out, by your choices. And when you get that, you stop making yourself wrong, that there's something wrong with me, that I'm not a manifester. No, you were always, you can't help it. It's who you are. It's our nature. And even though we're not the doer, and I know that sounds complex for some people, but anyway, you know, as we and others of you get that, because as you work with the divine, it's real magic. It's not illusion. It's not pixels on a screen. It's not explosives. It's not done with mirrors. This is how the false reality is created, is through duplication or mirrors in that. And so who you are is always the same, and always have all your powers, abilities present with you. You can't get better. But what we want to do is to let go of and no longer be operating from these illusions, from these concepts, from these false teachings in the way that keeps people always looking on the outside for answers, for solutions, answers to their questions and solutions to their problems. But by looking on the outside, we're looking at the effects of in our own personal world, and as well as what maybe we hear about, but we're not there through media telling us what's going on, and we don't know whether they're using green screens or it's true or it isn't. So you have to know how to discern truth from false. And when you know how to discern truth from false, because it has to do with your knowing, that's you're plugged into, and it's who you are. So it's the deal is to be able to trust yourself rather than trust the mind, and trust that your own wisdom and knowing. And there is a tremendous war going on against you ever knowing that. So the war is about anyone that we're dealing with in the world who has envy, who lives by fear, who has the desire to control and dominate people, places, things, for whatever their reason may be. Because those are tendencies and symptoms of someone who is deeply infected by, I would call it a mind virus. It perverts their reality. And that is a very contagious thing, because the mind then, knowing all about you, knows all about the mind. And therefore, each one of us is plugged into, like you might call it, a motherboard of the same information or knowledge isn't going out there, because if it's done in information and knowledge, then it is stored in the mind, in one of the compartments or layers. And so you're going to wind up where you're headed. That means you're going to, just like now, this is where we wound up. This is how your life turned out. You wondered years ago, where's it going? This right now, right there where we are. That's how it turned out. Because you are life. And it's a moment-to-moment experience, because you are eternity. And that means successive moments of now of you being. And in that 0 point, you might call it, or beginning or stage point, is when in each moment you have a choice. And it's either to trust here or trust there. And that there is in concepts and words. And it is the place of hypnotic trances. It's the place of programming. It's the place of simulation, where it's operating on those levels. And as we let those other levels operate, control us, the mind and those programs, consciousness, beliefs, and sort of, to control us, then we're going to wind up where that information, that knowledge, that data, that teaching, that thing wants you to wind up. That's just the way it goes. The key then, as an intelligent being, is that you realize you are eternal and you cannot die. And when you really know that, and I'll tell you, when I really got that, I was depressed for a moment, because whoa, man, I got lots to deal with here. And I thought, well, you better start. And if you want to be happy, you better learn what makes happiness. Happiness, I have to tell you, comes from giving. And there's a lot of people who know that. And you also have to let yourself receive, my dear ones. And when you let other people give to you, you empower them to know that they have enough to give. And that's why it's so wonderful at the season of giving and receiving, that even to make things and to ask the children, what are you going to make for your parents? Drawings, or they clean the house, anything at all. It's that sense of we all have something to give, and we all have something to receive. And just as you wound up now where you were headed before, that's great. And whatever it may be, acknowledge yourself, because that for whatever it is. And I love where I wound up. I love that. Therefore, I can't make anybody or anything wrong, because I'm right where I want to be. And when you know that you'll always be exactly where you want to be, because you will be speaking and communicating, and if you're going to use your thinking or your evaluating, whatever it may be, the joy of giving, and it's a thing that people have to overcome, because they believe that the happiness comes from getting sense gratification, getting something. And you can tell, like children at a holiday or Christmas or Hanukkah, however they play, Diwali in India, so many great celebrations. I loved living there. It was fabulous. children just open one gift after another. The paper's off. Is that it? Paper's off. Is that it? Where's the next one? There aren't any more. That's it. It's gone. What is that? You can tell that makes them miserable. And look how the children of this world are headed. Because when they become adults, and the word adult means stupid person. Adult means you're calling yourself a stupid person. Please. Oh, well, you're just in that word thing. You're using words. You're thinking. You're speaking. Look how it turned out. The choice is yours in every moment. Be now where you want to be then.